Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the Stuart period. The Stuart period was from 1603 to 1714 now. Queen Elizabeth did not marry and therefore she did not have any heirs to the throne. But before her death, she desired that King James VI of Scotland should be her successor. Now, James the Sixth of Scotland was the great grandson of James the Fourth, and he married Margaret, daughter of Henry the Seventh. Therefore, the house of Tudor and the house of Stuart were connected by marriage. And though he was James the Sixth of Scotland, he was the first James to rule England. Therefore, in England he was James the First. And this was the first time that England and Scotland was ruled by the same king. And James also, instead of calling himself as the King of England and Scotland, he called himself King of Great Britain. And when he became the king, both the Catholics and the Puritans, they expected him to be doing some favors to them, but he only made them enemies. In 1604, at the Hampton Court Conference, he turned down the request of the Puritans to have Presbyterian form of church government. And soon, even with Catholics, he was not in good terms. And though his mother was a Catholic, he ill treated the Catholics, and in fact, some of them in turn plotted against him. The famous gunpowder plot in 1605, under the guidance of Guy Fawkes, was actually an attempt to kill the king and all his parliament members. And one great event which has a lot of literary importance is the publication of the authorized version of the English Bible in 1611. They were nearly 47 scholars and divine people who were working for more than 3 years to bring out this authorized version of the Bible. And some beautiful expressions like the Benjamin of the family, the prodigal son, to cast pearls before swine, the 11th hour, a cry in the wilderness have become common in English usage because this version of the Bible was frequently read by the people. And James the First was also a patron of poets. He made Shakespeare his court poet, and after Shakespeare, Ben Jonson was given a pension, and later on, this pension was given to the poet laureate of England. And during his rule, he wanted to promote colonization, and therefore, many companies were started. And the most famous among those companies are the London Company and the Plymouth Company. And New Plymouth Colony in America was founded by the Pilgrim Fathers who set sail from England in 1620 in a ship called Mayflower. And Charles I, who ruled England from 1625 to 1649, was the eldest son of King James. And even before, that is from the days of Queen Elizabeth itself, there were a few people who wanted to have their powerful sayings in the government. And among them, two important people are the business people who were doing foreign trade and having a lot of money. And the other one class was the landed gentry. Their grandfathers had brought estates from Henry VIII when he dissolved the monasteries and sold the lands belonging to those monasteries. Now, these two people, that is, these business people and the landed gentry, they were actually Puritans and also confined to the towns, and they wanted to have their power shown in the government. Now, Queen Elizabeth and James I knew how to adjust with these power mongers. But Charles I was prepared even to break rather than to bend, and he believed in the divine right because, in his opinion, the kings were not obliged to consult people in the business of administration, and because of this, a civil war broke out between the royalists and the parliamentarians, and the war came to an end with the execution of Charles I on 30th January 1649. And then came the rule of the rump, which lasted from 1649 to 1653. Because of the civil war, there was a division among the parliamentarians. The House of the Lords was abolished, and nearly half of the members of the House of Commons who supported the king lost their seats there in the parliament. And through Pride's purge, nearly about 130 Presbyterian members were sent out of the parliament, and only the remaining people were contemptuously called the rump. And after the execution of the king, To manage the administration, a council of state was set up, and this consisted mostly of the new model army officers and the members of the rump. And this is generally referred to as the rule of the rump. Then came the Commonwealth, which ruled England from 1653 to 1658. Now the army triumphed over the independence of the rump, and the Commonwealth was set up with Oliver Cromwell as Lord Protector. Oliver Cromwell ruled the country for 5 years till his death in 1658. And before his death, he made a law, that is, he passed a law which helped his son to become the next ruler of England. But Richard Cromwell was not like his father. He was a weak administrator, and there was a lot of disorder. And because of this, people started thinking it is better the king's rule, that is, the monarch comes back. And according to the people's will, on 29th May 1660, the son of Charles I, who had been in exile in the United Netherlands, came back to England. And Charles II, the son of Charles I, ruled England from 1616 to 1685, and he was commonly called as the merry monarch of England because he was a very nice person. And soon after ascending the throne, he passed the Act of General Amnesty and Oblivion, according to which all the political offenders except the people who were responsible for his father's death were actually forgiven. But the people who were the reason for his father's death were hanged or they were exiled. And he wanted to wipe out Puritanism from the country, and therefore a series of 4 acts which is called as the Clarendon Code was passed up. And it is called as Clarendon Code because the brain behind this was the Earl of Clarendon. And for the most part of his life, Charles was indifferent to religion, but during his death, on his deathbed, he expressed his acknowledgement of Roman Catholicism faith, and he sent for Friar Huddleston, the priest who had actually protected him during the Civil War, and received from him extreme unction. Thus, Charles II died as a Catholic. And the years of Civil War and Commonwealth marked the most barren period in the history of English literature because there was not much of literature produced during those chaotic moments. But with the restoration of the normalcy, literature of all kinds was produced, but it was not of a very high order. And the reason was simple: the king and his friends lived a licentious life, and therefore these literary men also tried to cater to their taste. And the restoration drama in particular was very vulgar. But even in that time, we have 2 great works. One is the Paradise Lost by Milton, and another is Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Both of them were Puritans. And the court poet was John Dryden. He was appointed Port Laureate in 1668, but he lost his office in 1689 because he refused to take oaths at the Revolution. And the king encouraged colonization. Therefore, North and South Carolina, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania were founded during his reign. And as Charles II died without issue, his brother succeeded to the throne. James II ruled England from 1685 to 1688. He was a Roman Catholic, and he could become the king only because the House of Lords rejected the Exclusion Bill which had been passed by the House of Commons. And through his first wife, he had 2 Protestant daughters, Mary and Anna. Both of them married Protestant princes. Like Mary married William, Prince of Orange, and Anne married George, Prince of Denmark. When James was 55, his second wife, Mary of Modena, gave birth to a son, and he was brought up as a Catholic. And the people thought that to be ruled by another Catholic king was too much for them. Particularly the Protestant politicians could not tolerate it. So both Whigs and Tories joined together and asked William and her husband William of Mary and William of Join to be the rulers of England. Panic-stricken, James fled to France. And William and Mary ruled England from 1688 to 1702. Both of them landed in England on 5th November 1688. And after a few months, on 13th February 1689, they were declared King and Queen of England. And this was called as Glorious Revolution because for the first time a constitutional monarchy, that is people's will was brought into the parliament, and all these fundamental changes were brought without any violence or bloodshed. That is why it is called as glorious revolution. And Mary died in 1604 and William continued as king till 1702. He died of a fall from horseback while riding, and Fort William in Calcutta was named after him. One thing of great political importance that happened during William's rule was the beginning of the party system of government in England, and another was the passing of the Bill of Rights in 1689, which declared that the sovereign, that is a king, must be a member of the Church of England. Next, Queen Anne ruled England from 1702 to 1714. One of the provisions of the Act of Settlement, which was passed in 1701, was that after the death of William, the ruler of England should be Mary's sister Anne. And England and Scotland started having one common parliament according to the Act of Union passed in 1707 and the Treaty of Utrecht in 1713, which marked the conclusion of Spanish Succession War, brought many commercial advantages to England. The age of Queen Anne was distinguished by all-round prosperity in all walks of life, including literature. Joseph Addison wrote Spectatresses. Alexander Pope wrote the essay on criticism, and his most popular poem, The Rape of the Lock, was published in 1712. And William Congreve delighted the audiences with his witty comedies. And Queen Anne died in 1714 without leaving any heir to the throne. And this is because all her children had died in infancy. And here ends the Stuart age. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends. And if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.